you don't know what you don't know. And there's so many unknowns in the unknown.
Low key, I'm trying to see who would be a good fit for my company.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
You're still on fire. You die either way. People love being on the winning side. The reason they don't believe you is because they haven't seen the proof. If you want money, say you want money. If you want a Lamborghini, say you want a Lamborghini. All successful people, the reason they're successful is because they are selfish.
JustSayan Podcast.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
What up?
Another episode of the JustSayan Podcast. So, B, thanks for joining us today, dude.
Sir, I'm
Appreciate
excited
it.
to be here.
Brian, how do you pronounce your last name?
Beatrizola.
Beatrizola.
I made it short for B.
Yeah.
People always say like Bea.
Bea?
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, so like when you go to McDonald's and you get a sweet tea, do you say like Tia?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you don't.
No, I call you B, but I always shorten everyone's name to the first, except for yours. I call you Nico, but I'm always like either, if your name starts with a J or whatever, like
So
just
add
J.
on to his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I do.
Nico.
But anyway, thanks for joining us, dude. Happy to have you on the episode. So Brian, B is our producer, does an amazing job. But B, you are an entrepreneur, right? You have your own, would we call it production company? Is that, but you work with a lot of fitness industry, and I know not only fitness industry leaders, but you have a wide variety, I guess, a wide base of clients.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it all start? What led you down this path? I'm very interested in hearing your story.
Yeah, so I think it all started like, to go way back, right? My family grew up as an immigrant family. And so in that situation, in that scenario, traditionally, we came to the United States to have an education.
Where are you guys from?
From the Philippines.
Philippines? Were you born in the Philippines? Or
Yes,
were you born?
I was born in the Philippines and I left when I was 5 years old.
Gotcha.
We came to the United States and we're like, okay, like we're only here for one thing, and it's to get an education, to get a degree so we can have our career. And so my path was essentially already laid out for me by my parents in that sense, because that's all they knew how to do. The culture in the Philippines, it's like you either go to school to become an engineer or you go to school to become a nurse, or if you want to pursue even further, become a doctor. When we got to the United States, my whole entire life was just like, okay, like I'm going to focus, work hard. That's what my parents ingrained in me every single day. Work hard and go to school to become a nurse. And that's what I did. I was so laser focused at the time on one goal. And I think it came down to the fact that I wanted to make them proud because they did sacrifice a lot to come to the United States. Right. Fast forward, coming up onto, I believe I was a junior in high school. And that's when I watched this one video by Gary Vee where he was talking about how you live a life that you want to live, not because your parents told you to live this life. Because later down the road, when you live a life that someone else told you to live, you'll have regret or resentment later down the road. And that opened my eyes a lot because it made me realize, like, what am I actually doing? Like, why am I doing these things? Is it for me or is it for someone else? And that's when I realized my entire life, I was doing it for my parents, but I didn't do it for me. And so that put me in a position where I was like, okay, let's take a step back and let's assess the situation and actually think about what I actually want to do. And, during school, I really pushed myself to work hard and have straight A's, but I just didn't like testing. I didn't like studying because I just wasn't as passionate. I just did it because that was my mission, what I was told to do. And that's when I discovered other ways to do it. I boiled down to a point where I was like, the only reason why we are so ingrained to have this education, this safety net, is because we need to make more money. We need to have a vehicle that gives us the safety and the money to be able to afford the life that we want to live. And so to that point, that's when I was looking at different avenues, different ways to make money. And, I have really ambitious goals. My parents pretty much sacrificed everything to come here. And I was like, okay, if I were to go in this route and become a nurse, I would probably make like upwards of like 60 grand, maybe 100 grand a year if I work overtime. And I'm like, I don't want to do that the rest of my life. And even at 100K a year, I wouldn't even be able to provide for not only my current family, if my family like grows in the future, but my parents who've expended their resources for me to be where I'm at. And so that's when I realized at that age that that's where the cycle starts. That's where that generational curse is what people call it starts, is their parents use their resources on them so their kids can be successful, and then the kids would put their resources to take care of their parents when they're older, but they don't have money for themselves. Right. Unless you're making a substantial amount of money. And so that's when I realized you just need to make more money. When I was going on the internet, I was like, what is this business thing everybody's talking about? Like, what is this thing where everyone is able to have these nice cars, these big houses, get to have the time freedom, the location freedom? And all of them had one thing in common. They all owned a business. That's when I took a step forward and tried out business, trying about different things, failed a lot of things, and then that's when ultimately landed onto media production, which transitioned into marketing now, where that is my full-time thing.
What was the first one that you tried out?
Dude, I wouldn't even necessarily call this a business. It was more like a side hustle, like garage flipping.
Garage flipping? Oh,
yeah,
like doing epoxy.
No, like going to garage sale flipping. Like going to garage sales and like buying items for cheap and seeing how much they cost online, like on eBay, and selling them. So buy and sell.
Gary Vee method.
Gary Vee method, literally.
The couch.
Yeah.
That's what like blew up.
You know, in that process, I was just consuming a ton of Gary Vee. Obviously, like taking his word literal terms, like literally go to a garage sale, buy items, and then sell them, and just do that. And that's what I did. Yeah. And ultimately, I got burnt out. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and so I was like, well, I can't just buy things. And so I was like, I got to find another way to start a business with like the little capital I had. And, you know, I had a entry-level job, and that to me still wasn't enough to go start a business and put capital up. And so I tried a bunch of things, and one of the things that I also tried was digital marketing. But I was so, naive. I didn't do my due diligence on like the company. I didn't do my due diligence on the actual product and how the system laid out. It was almost like shiny object syndrome, where it's like, you can make a lot of money here. You just do X, Y, Z. Turned out like this whole like digital marketing business that I was a part of was like, it was like an MLM. And I was definitely not knowledgeable or experienced to understand anything that was going on. Like I didn't know business terms. I didn't know like what the word customer or client meant, like to that level. Like I was pretty dumb, and eventually landed upon this, which fueled my passion because I was always very artistic in school. That's when I was able to leverage my creativeness into something that would help produce income for myself. And yeah, that's kind of like where we're at now.
So it's interesting, and I want to take this back a little bit, right, towards the beginning. Because look, I resonate with a lot of your story. Anthony and I come from immigrant parents. We're from Mexico. I was born in Mexico and migrated to the U.S. when I was around 4 or 5, similar age, you know, when you came over. And there's something to be, you know, said about that. You know, immigrant parents bringing us over to the United States for a shot at a better future, right? And yes, you're absolutely right. Similar to your parents, it was, hey, hard work hard, work for what you want. There's opportunity here. They essentially left their entire life behind to give us a new beginning, a better life. So I resonate a lot with that, and I think and I'm glad you're sharing your story, because I think there's a lot of people out there like us, right? And the landscape right now with all that is what it is. It's tough, but if this can give someone at least an idea or that feeling of, man, it doesn't matter where I come from or how I got here, I have an opportunity to improve my life and do better, right? And that's through being resourceful, trying new things. But I'm curious, your parents came over, you mentioned from, where you're from, the Philippines, engineering, nursing, something in the healthcare industry. Did you get any pushback from your parents when you said, hey, I'm not going down the path that you ultimately wanted for me? I'm going down my path. Did you get any pushback from them? What was that like?
I love this question because to me, it's something that I relate to the most. And I feel like anytime I share this, a lot of people relate to it. You ever met someone that, you meet them for the first time and you start sharing each other's stories and you realize you guys go through the same trauma?
Yeah, a lot of times it's very similar story, right?
Yeah, and so that's basically kind of how that relationship is, in the sense that not between my family and I, but with other people when I share this story. I do get a lot of pressure from my parents back then, and it was because that's the only way that I always tell people, like, people only know what they know. They only know based of how they're raised, and that's kind of what they're ingrained. Um, have you ever noticed when, like, you listen to music nowadays, you're like, it just doesn't hit the same with what I used to listen to, like maybe like back in high school. But when you hear that style of music back in the day, you're like, oh, dude, this is like the banger. This is like, why don't they play more of this? Right? That's kind of how the memory unfolds for my family. And so, obviously they sacrificed a lot. Not only did they have a lot of pressure on me, they put a lot of pressure on themselves because in their framework, right, they're the only people in their family that came here. And so there's a sense of pride when they come here knowing that their kid is deciding that they don't want to be what everyone thinks they're supposed to be. And it's almost like, well, I don't want to come off as like a failure of a parent because my kid's not doing what the traditional society says. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And again, all they see is a 16-year-old kid that doesn't know how to live life. Their brain hasn't developed yet. And so that's the only lens they're looking at the time. And so there's a lot of times, and I think when people start a business, that they go through a bunch of different phases of trial and error. They don't see any success. They're not even making money. And like most of the time, they're probably living with their parents. You take someone that is very ambitious, that wants to create a life for themselves, that's actually worked hard but hasn't found success. And you pile that up with someone in your ear telling you like, hey, maybe you should quit. Hey, maybe you should go try this. Like, why don't you just do this? Why don't you be like everybody else? Like all these external influences or projections that are being told to you really unmotivate you, and it makes things harder. But you can't really say anything because you're under their roof. They pay for everything. You have to respect that to a point. And for me, it was very difficult to start a business without that pressure. But then I learned to block out the noise, just in through one ear, out the other. And it wasn't until I surrounded myself with the right people, and the right people meaning people that have already walked my path or is already in my path. Because when you find that community of people that you can relate to, that you can share trauma and also give each other advice on how to level up in the game, that's when things get exciting. Because let's say you have someone come in and then they start running things their own way, and then you just look at each other, you're like, that's not how we roll. So you just ignore what they say. You're just like, cool. It just goes out the other ear. We're just going to continue doing our thing. That was the framework that I had built myself during that time. And it wasn't until I got older and I moved out. I moved out at the age of, I think, 20 or 21 years old. Moved out on my own, started becoming independent and paying for my own things. That's when I realized that they weren't trying to get me to quit because they didn't believe I could do it, but more so that they just wanted to make sure that I was safe. They wanted to make sure that I was good. And as a parent, that's all they care about. And obviously, you don't know what you don't know. And there's so many unknowns in the unknown. And it's scary for most people. There's a level of uncertainty that people don't realize when you step into this realm that you don't know what's ahead of you. And it's very scary. People will tell you, like, don't go there. It's like you could die, right? Imagine like you ever drove on a road and it's like a really foggy road and the only thing you can see is literally the road that is like 5 feet in front of you, but everything is smoke, everything is fog. And that's like what I believe entrepreneurship is like. Is like you kind of know where you're headed, you put your destination where you need to go, but right now it's just super foggy. And the only thing you can look at is this GPS that gives you an idea where to go. And you just have to trust the process that you're going to get there. And over time, you build the skill sets to be able to survive in that environment. You know, be able to navigate the road. Like, you know, okay, well, I can't see the road in front of me, but I can see these lines on the side. So I just need to stay within these lines. If I see a light, that probably means there's a car ahead of me. So let me slow down and pace myself. And so I think once you've built the skill sets over time, get yourself in the right environment, that's when things start to flip in your favor.
Sometimes you have a inch window, 5 foot window, right, that you can see out of. I think of it sometimes, and sometimes things clear up, right? Process is working, things clear up, and then it gets foggy again. You start diving into something else, a different problem comes in, and you have to, something, you know, a problem that you haven't necessarily faced before, and you have to adapt. You have to acquire those skills to solve that problem. It gets foggy again, right, to your just your analogy and then your example. So I like to sometimes think about it as, hey, I jumped out the plane and I'm building the parachute on the way down. And I have to I have no other choice than to figure it out, right?
You might not even realize that you're making the right moves, right? For example, not to take it to the extreme or anything, but like if you were on fire right now and your only options, you see this puddle of water. You're like, my only option is to either jump in this water, take out the fire, but what if the water is gasoline? What do you do? In that specific moment in time, the only thing you're worrying about is fixing this current problem. And you do whatever it takes. It could kill you or it could save you. But either way, you're still on fire. You die either way. Yeah. So you choose a path and
Gotta do something.
You have to follow through.
Bryan, one of the things too that you mentioned earlier was like surrounding yourself with the right people, right? I think it's one of those universal laws that once you find that community or once you find that group that you resonate with or is doing things that you want to do, how it changes your own life. What was that like finding that group?
Yeah, for sure. It's at first it was hard because in school I didn't care to make a lot of friends because I knew the path I was gonna be, at least in high school, middle school, elementary school. I knew I would never see them again. I never really made it a point to make really close friends because I was focused on one goal. And I'm glad I was able to pick up that trait because I could leverage that skill now, right? When I make my own personal goals now and business goals, I could really laser focus. But to that same degree, like socialization was very hard for me. Making friends was very hard for me. I didn't care to make friends. I was very selfish in that way. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing either. Through repetition and time and hearing like YouTube was one of the biggest things where I learned how to articulate my vocabulary, how to network properly. And obviously those skill sets convert into better skill sets later down the road, whether it's sales, whether it's customer service or anything communication-wise. I just watched YouTube videos on how to network. You know the best people who are really good at networking? You ever walk into a Walmart and the guy asks
the greeters.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not the greeters.
No?
You walk into a Walmart and then someone asks you like, hey, how much are you paying your electricity bill?
Oh, those
those
people.
dudes that are-
Those are the ones you want to look for when it comes to marketing, because those types of people in those industries are out on the field talking to people every single day. The people door knocking, right? Getting rejected time and time again. Those people have built calluses in the sense that when they get rejected, they don't care because it's just a numbers game. They have one outcome and that's all they care about. And they're constantly improving after every interaction. And you wonder why they continue to do it. Well, they probably have found success that you don't know. You're probably not the right type of person. And they understand that. They understand not everyone they talk to is going to convert or make a friend. And so that's kind of the outlook I look at it is whenever I socialized at that time, to me, it was just a numbers game. And so I started really small. I went from not talking to anyone at all, and I would go to retail stores like Ross, or I would go to grocery stores, and I would just have a genuine conversation with people, compliment them. Hey, I really like your pants. Where did you get it from? Oh, those are really cool. Like, what else? What else? I like that shirt. Where did you get that shirt? And obviously they would ask, back, and then you would go into a personalized, genuine conversation, and you just leave it at that. But the more times that you do that, the more confidence you build on yourself that, hey, it's not that bad. This person might not even be my friend in this current moment, but I was able to dock that interaction, that experience in my memory bank for when I need to elevate my skill sets. I could pull back from that memory and really be like, I have a plethora of evidence that I'm a good person. I can talk to people. And anytime I need a confidence boost, I just pull that data in my memory bank and be like, hey, I've had some good, genuine interactions that came out pretty good. So why am I nervous trying to talk to this people? Or why am I nervous trying to close a deal with this client? Because my intentions was pure at that time. I'm just trying to make a friend. Over time, I would do the same thing when I would go in the gym. And then eventually I would find the right circle of people the more I did that.
Dude, I love it when door-to-door sales guys come to my house.
Yeah.
We get a lot of pest companies coming through, roofing companies, and I understand what they're doing, and I understand their pitch, but I love it when they come knock on my door, and I'm home to I always like to ask them certain questions because I have an idea of what they're like.
Trying to give them the hardest objection ever.
Yeah, hardest
Like, let's see how good of a salesperson you are.
Yes, dude, and a lot of them are really good, and a lot of them kind of stumble, and they're like, well, they'll accept the no very quickly and move on, right? And then there's guys that don't accept that no, and they start rebuttaling or start asking me different questions, change up the answer, but also low key, I'm trying to see who would be a good fit for my company.
Yeah, that's the best way. That's the best way to find one.
It really is, and I haven't found one yet, but I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Oh, I joke with my wife all the time that I love to be sold. I love it. It's one of the most refreshing things of I have my objections or the things that I may view a certain product differently about, and if we can get through that together, great. I want to be on board, You
learn so much from that experience alone.
Yep. You really
say an objection maybe you can't handle, and you're like, let's see how he says it. Let's see how she says it. Yeah. And if they were able to do it, you're like, oh, I'm going to use that next time.
And I think that goes back to just having that community, right? Or that group that you're around of just sharing those things. Hey, man, this is where I'm having a roadblock. This is where I'm running into certain things. And especially in an entrepreneurial side of where sales, as you're starting out, is everything, right? Mm-hmm. Meeting new people. And when you have that community, it helps you workshop those ideas or those things. And I'm sure, everybody's been through it, but I'm sure you've been through it too of the light bulb goes off with just a short conversation with a friend of oh, maybe they didn't even say the right answer, but you're like, I know exactly what we're going to do next time on those things.
And it's great. My initial thoughts when it came to networking or trying to talk to someone that, is successful in a certain industry that I'm interested in, it was, oh, they're going to tell me exactly what to do and I'm just going to do it. And that's how I'm going to get successful. But the more I got around some of those people, you kind of realize they don't have everything figured out, and it's more just that collaboration of, hey, this idea I have, what do you think? Oh, I think it's a great idea. Go try it out. And then you come back, hey, this is what I got out of it. It didn't really work, or it worked. Let's keep rolling with it. But kind of coming to that realization, like it's not just, hey, do this and it's going to work every single time, no matter what. It's just figuring out, what certain aspects work and what don't.
Yeah, I mean, I believe like with the amount of people I've had discussions with that, showed some kind of success in life, the biggest thing they all have in common is they just keep it simple. They go back to the basics. Most of the time, whatever you find success in your perspective of the world, when you ask them a piece of advice, normally it's very simple.
Most people expect this, intricate, complicated formula,
Like the secret.
yes, like
There's
like,
no secret.
like you're holding some sort of secret, right? But it's never that. It's always super basic.
Yeah.
And basic. It's always very simple.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yep.
No, one dude that I've been watching a lot on social media is his account's called like School of Hard Knocks. He goes and like interviews like millionaires and billionaires on the street, and I've been watching a ton of his content because I just think it's interesting. And one of the things that I kind of was looking for is like, okay, is there this secret sauce? Like, what is the most common thing that these millionaires and billionaires say? And it all boils down to like, yeah, I just kept trying and didn't stop, and eventually like I broke through. But I tried everything under the sun and
I'm
just
sure
didn't
everyone,
stop.
or at least all you here at some point have seen the image. It's two images of two miners. There's one on the top, one on the bottom. One is, the top image I think is the miner walking back, and he was like this close, and then the bottom image is this guy just hacking away, right? And you can tell that the bottom guy's like not gonna stop, right? So a lot of times it's just that you don't stop, you just keep going. But there's several different things that can drive that, right? Laser focus, like your why, right? You have people telling you, hey, stop, maybe you shouldn't do this, quit, go back to what we think is best for you. And you're right, a lot of that comes from especially parents, right? Where, and I'm a parent. I've got two girls, and yes, I think as a parent, we do it from a place of, man, I want my kids to be safe. I want them to have a great life, right? And a lot of it, I think all of it comes from a place of love. If you're a good parent, right, and you love your children. But I think at the same time, and I bet your parents feel, in seeing you doing what you're doing, and finding success in what you're doing, it's filling them with love and happiness because they ultimately see you being successful and see you happy, right? Yeah. Even though you didn't necessarily follow that path that they thought was success for you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And your parents or even the people, your friends that you tell them, hey, I want to start this new thing, and it's just a choice that I made. They're not going to believe you in the beginning. If we use our common sense, the reason they don't believe you is because they haven't seen the proof. They haven't seen the evidence. For example, when you started your company, you probably haven't landed your first client and you tell people like, I'm going to start this and that, and they'll probably brush you off like, yeah, okay, whatever. Until you started getting one client, and then two clients, and then three. And eventually, you've gotten to the point where you've distanced your proximity to them, and you've distance the communication between them because you're literally working on the thing you said you were doing. And eventually they're going to figure out, oh, this dude's serious. Oh, this dude's actually about it. And when you are able to show physical proof, and I always like to go like pretty bare bones and be very open. And, when I had that conversation with my parents where it was like, they didn't quite believe me, I just showed them my paycheck. I just showed them how much I got paid. And like, hey, look, this is how much I got paid. Like I'm doing good now. Like the route I was gonna take, like look, like this is a better vehicle. And I think that's when they finally realized, okay, he's being able to show that this thing works. He's being able to show that he's successful in doing it. And so that helped alleviate that pressure where I no longer need to pressure my child to go on this route where I think is better for them. Slowly over time, when you just compound these wins and being able to show evidence to people, that they just stop tweeting at your ear, and all that noise eventually goes away, and now you're at a state of abundance and peace, and you can really focus on the thing that you're going to do. And quite frankly, that evolves into them becoming like your biggest hater to your biggest supporter. People love being on the winning side. That's just how it is. That's just how they view the world. And my next point is, dude, like, whenever you have a goal, Ruben, let me ask you, when you started your company, what was your mindset like? What was your goal when you first started?
When I first started, my goal ultimately, and realistically, my goal at the end of the day, my overarching goal.
Like, I want the most like honest self-actualization answer.
Yeah, it was to help my dad retire. That was my goal. Okay. Like, that is legitimately why I started my company. And, obviously, you know, I wanted stuff for myself too, right? Yeah. But unselfishly, like, that was my goal. Yeah.
And what are the things you did? What are the sacrifices you had to make to achieve those goals?
Man, distancing myself from people, and that meant also some family members, right? And going out with friends. I wasn't much of a partier anyways, but going out with friends, and not living your quote unquote normal 20s life. I mean, going out to parties, staying out late, drinking, all that stuff.
I think people should be more open about exactly what they want. If you want money, say you want money. If you want a Lamborghini, say you want a Lamborghini. Like, don't try to be humble and say, like, I want nice things. Like, if you want a nice big house and be able to renovate it the way you want to renovate, if you want to have a personal driver, say you want a personal driver, right? Because all successful people, I would argue all successful people, the reason they're successful is because they are selfish. They decide to prioritize themselves when they have a goal in order to achieve that goal. No, absolutely. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying the reality of the situation based on how you perceive the world in your lens and, personally is, if you want to do something, you have to prioritize yourself. There's going to be some bumps along the road, but you have to act in a way where you must make decisions for yourself to be successful. Otherwise, you're only operating at 50%. You need 100% capacity in order for you to achieve that thing. Yeah. So 50% won't cut it.
100%. So yes, if you are, pursuing a goal, whatever it is, at some point, you have to be selfish, no matter what. I mean, because there's certain decisions that have to be made to achieve that goal that only you ultimately can make, and it's going to come down to, I mean, really, and it's going to be seen as selfish regardless, in order to move that, whatever, in order to take that next step or move the needle forward. Yeah.
So, but obviously you had like the vision, right? And I know, going back to like how you would try to prove to your parents like what you wanted to do. So you had that vision until it became reality. So now that it's real for you, how important is still kind of what that next visualization is for the next step of your business or the next step of your life? Do you still find yourself doing that like daily, weekly? Like, how important is that?
Yeah, so, my viewpoint at the time was I'm just trying to make as much money as possible. And then when I've gotten to the point where the financial aspect isn't as significant to me in terms of my priorities, that's when things really start to get exciting. Things really start to shift. As your business grows, you hire people, you have teammates, you have leaders, and your perspective changes. Like, materialistic things don't really drive you as much anymore. You're thinking more long-term. You're thinking more about, okay, how can I serve my community? How can I make my team better? How can I change people's lives, right? And so I believe that's where my framework is now, is how can I just play the game the best way I can? How can I dominate in the space? How can I get my clients to the best possible version of their business through our marketing? And just be really, really crazy about going about that. Whenever you have that goal, you have to own it and be very open about, like, yeah, it is a very selfish goal that I want to work hard to, make a difference in people's lives, knowing that I'm the reason someone is able to put food on the table at night, right? And, to share a story with you, we had 3 dogs growing up here in the United States, right? And we had one very old dog. And this dog was a miracle. Let me tell you. It was a literally how the story starts out. One Christmas morning,
Yeah.
because it literally was one Christmas morning, snowing outside, and my dogs was barking. My mom looks out the window, nobody's there. And my mom's like, we need to find like a partner for this dog because this dog is lonely. I open the door and I see this white dog, by the way, covered in shit. Like covered in shit. I seen this white dog and I was like, holy shit. God literally put this white dog in front of our house. There was a blizzard
Covered
outside.
dog.
A shit covered dog. That's the only way I was able to see it because I had shit on it. But it was a white dog. And so we took him in and we couldn't find the owner. He had a collar, but he didn't have like any identification on him. We brought the dog in, right? Had him for years. It got to the point where he was just getting old. The thing about this dog was he had gnarly breath. Oh, like, dude, like, look, my brother knows it's bad. He is like, if he licks your hand, like you're smelling that hand for even after you shower, you wash it, you're smelling your hand for the next few days. That's how bad his breath was. Missing some teeth. Like, he's a straight old man. You ever seen like Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like missing some teeth.
Yeah.
That's how my dog was.
It's like the average Mexican Chihuahua, bro.
Yeah. Just crooked. And so, he's a grumpy dog. You try to kiss him, he'll snap at you. You try to pick him, he's a little chubby, he'll snap at you. And it wasn't until I realized in this moment in time when I knew it was his time. Like, dogs have a way of telling you it's time to go. Yeah. And it was one day he went from being snappy to, you can't pick him up, to all of a sudden he's like, I'm sitting on the floor, he's coming up to me and like laying down on my lap. And then he licked my face willingly. He never does that. And I was like, something's off. And then
Were you like, bro, please don't lick my face. Your breath smells
yeah.
so bad.
No, literally, I'm like, dude, what are you doing, bro? It smells so bad. And then we got him to bed. So he was sleeping on the bed like most of the time. And then I noticed he just wasn't eating. He wasn't drinking water. Mm-hmm. And, I never thought anything of it. He was just a fat dog. But then I realized, like, he's bigger than what I'm used to seeing, like, kind of bloated. And that's when I realized, like, oh, something's up. He was bloated to a point where it was not normal. And that's when I told my parents, like, yeah, that's not normal. His behavior is not normal. That's when I saw that there was a problem with him. And I was Googling it, and it wasn't until that one night I told my dad and I told my mom, I was like, hey, I think we need to get him checked out in the vet. We didn't have the financial means at the time to be able to bring him to the vet. Everybody knows, like, vet bills are expensive. Mm-hmm. Especially with a case like this that's like internal, you don't know. They could cut him open. They have to sedate him. Like, all these things, you just like do the math in your head realistically. And you're like, this is going to cost us thousands of dollars that we don't have. For a dog that you love, a childhood dog that you love, you can't save their life because you just don't have the resources to do it. And then, the next morning, my dad wakes me up 2 a.m. in the morning. He's like, hey, our dog just passed away. And that's when I realized that was the last time that he was telling me, like, hey, it's time to go. But, looking back at it now, I wish I would have realized, or I wish I would have had, or we would have had the resources to take care of that, because he probably would still be here to this day. Mm. But again, that's the reality of the situation that most people go through, is they aren't selfish enough to chase their goals, to become ambitious. They don't want the abundance. They don't want the good things that come out of life. And obviously, to the point I'm making, financially, you need money to be able to have these things. Not even to have nice things, but to take care of things when things matter. Mm-hmm. I think that's where I wish people would be more open about, is like, hey, like, if you want nice things, like, please go for it. Like, get after it. Like, you're gonna let your childhood dog die because you're so humble that you're not gonna work hard enough to achieve it. You're not gonna go out of your way to elevate your skill sets so that you can apply these skills into a vehicle where you can have this abundance to take care of these things.
Dude, I wholeheartedly believe that. I think most people get caught up in their image and everything else when it's like, no, if you have a goal, that's your goal.
Yeah.
Like like you said earlier, be selfish about it.
And it's not easy.
Yeah,
It's not common for most people to have success. It's not common at all.
It's a lot of risk.
It's a lot of
There's
risk
a lot of risk
involved.
that people are not willing to take.
Yep.
Whether it be certain circumstances, right? You could say that someone maybe is a little further in life and they've always wanted to try something and now they have kids and stuff like that and they're like, well, it's too risky for me, right? You could still take that risk and realize, oh man, I should have taken it regardless, and things turned out great, right? Try it. But there is a lot of risk. Also, we had a guest, good friend of ours, Javon Glasgow, a couple episodes back, and he talks about, or he mentioned, it's programming. A lot of people, they fall back to what's comfortable, so it's hard, and they fall back to what's the usual, the norm for them, right? And a lot of people will try something and then realize it's hard, so they immediately revert back to their normal state. And yeah, unfortunately, some people just revert back and don't understand how to, continue to either take a risk or continue to push forward or just ultimately give up pretty easy.
To that point, thank you for sharing that. To that point, I think that's why it's also important to continuously elevate your internal mindset, but also your external environment. When you elevate your mindset, if you have a goal, you say, I want to be the best dad, I want to be the best athlete, I want to be the best business owner, right? There's a level of mindset you have to really tap into, because I do believe everyone has that animal inside of them. While that internal elevates, you must cater and build the environment around you to support that mentality. You cannot keep a wild lion cage. Otherwise, what's going to happen? It's going to be domesticated. You bring the situation like most people is they're very ambitious in their goals, but their external environment doesn't support that. Their friends don't support them. They live with their parents where they're telling them you need to quit. They're not like building themselves over time. And so externally, that plays a role in how you perceive yourself and how you perceive the world, because you believe that, hey, I'm only worth this much. This is how I perceive myself. You're not going to be able to reach your goals when you don't upgrade these things in life. And I'm not saying go out of your way and like buy, things you can't afford. I'm not trying to say that at all. What I'm trying to say is you must be able to understand that when I raise my standard, everything around me needs to be raised to support that. And that's when people realize that, oh, I'm a completely different person. I've now programmed myself to perform better. And I have physical proof around me, the things that I buy, the people that I associate with, the environment that I've literally built myself is proof of where my mental standard is. And I think that's when people start to shift.
and life just brings more and more of those things.
When I was young, bro, like I was working with my dad. And again, I was in that weird phase where I'm like still working a job while trying to build a business. I didn't really have money. And my mentality was still, I needed to do this, and that. At that point, it's just a vision and a thought, but there was no physical proof to show that I'm this person. I think most people can take from this that are watching, that are in that position where maybe they're at a job that they don't have the resources to be able to just quit and go. Maybe they have a lot of responsibility. In my experience, I protected my mindset because I understood the environment that I was stepping into when I clocked into work. I understood the way people would speak, the way people would do work, and they would do a half-assed job because they're lazy, or just like how they would blame and become a victim of their own environment. I protected that. I wouldn't speak to anybody. I wouldn't allow myself to make friends with those types of people because I understood that that's very poisonous. That will play a role in how you live life outside the house, how you treat your family when you come home. And so whenever you understand that you need to protect that mindset is when you start to play this game at work, where it's like, hey, if you're let's say you flip burgers, you're going to make the best burgers in the world. You're flipping burgers, bro. But if you are really serious about elevating and you're just in this position right now, you're going to flip the best burgers. If you're trying to lose weight, right? I'm in the process of losing weight myself. I've probably lost like 10 pounds. I'm still fat. But mentally, I see myself as a version of me that's lean, that has these qualities of life. But it's not reality right now. But I understand that when I go to the gym, I'm going to put in an extra 5 minutes of cardio because that's a standard. I play this game where it's like I'm going to do one more rep. I'm going to do one more set. And eventually over time, that compounds. And you start to realize, oh, wow, I can do a lot more. And then when an opportunity, presents itself, you're able to capitalize on it and you do a significantly better job because now you've conditioned and programmed yourself to do more in that environment.
So there's two things that come to mind on that, B, and one of them goes back to my parents and the way we were raised, and it was always instilled, hey, if you're gonna do something, do it to the best of your ability, no matter what. If you want to go be a janitor, be the best janitor you can be. If you want to go flip burgers, but be the best burger flipper you can be, and that was always instilled in us. Second is, oh shit, now I forgot my second point, but. Second is self-talk. People don't understand. I don't think people realize how important self-talk is. And it's something that, I think, and you can attest or confirm, right? But I've always told Anthony, people know he's my younger brother. Dude, self-talk is so important. How you talk to yourself, how you're internally talking to yourself. Similar, I had to disassociate myself, and it is what it is. It's the part of being. You have to be selfish when you want to reach certain goals, right? From family members, friends who just there's this negativity. I don't talk ill about people. I don't like talking negative about people, and my internal talk is always that of a positive talk, optimistic talk. I don't care what I'm going through, but that is my internal voice, and people don't understand how important that is. You quickly realize how someone talks to themselves internally through their external actions, right? As little as they may be. And I don't know when I realized that. Maybe it was when I was, starting my company and driving and listening to Earl Nightingale and Les Brown and Jim Rohn and all the OGs. Yeah, absolutely. Tony Robbins. But the internal talk is so important because, one, it doesn't necessarily, again, where you start, it's only your fault if 2 years later, you're still where you started, right? And what I started doing is, okay, if a negative, intrusive thought came into my mind, I would immediately replace it with 3 positive thoughts, right? And that's just, I kept doing that and doing that and doing that. And not to say that stuff like that doesn't happen now, it does, but I quickly change it. And I think that's helped me quite a bit through some of the struggles, some of the business struggles, some of the, personal adversities. And it's huge.
I think, I like how you mentioned earlier, like just having that abundance mindset and how like it opens up so much. And, when you kind of shift your mindset to adopt, thinking that way, having a positive mindset, that positive internal talk, it's crazy. Like you start to see the people around you, 95% of people have a really icky mindset. And you're like, dude, I don't want that like at all. And it's very quick when you make that shift and you really start like realizing how people think and have their actions. You're just like, man, that's not, that's not how I want to be.
Yeah, and to that point, you kind of almost, the more patterns you see, the more patterns you recognize, you start to realize that a lot of people are very bitter about the world. But you also have a sense of like, once you've seen more of it, you kind of start to feel bad. You probably went through something that made you this way. I believe everybody's good. It's just the external environment just crashed down on them. It's the process of self-actualization and understanding where your current situation is and having that positive self-talk. When I went to vacation to the Philippines, we were raised in America. We came back to visit our family again. You would think that if you have an abundance of income and abundance of resources that your life is automatically happier. But that is so far from the truth. I quickly came to realize that there's people out there that have it worse than us. At the same time, they're significantly more happier, more present with their family. They're able to just have fun. I believe it's that community and that self-talk that they have within themselves and their viewpoint. They find joy in that because they do believe they're good people. They stick to their routines and their faith, and they don't judge other people. They make the most out of it.
It's like the story of the fisherman where there's a dude fishing and then a businessman comes up to him and he's like, hey, why do you spend all your time fishing? Like, if you catch a few fish, sell it, and then hire someone to fish for you, then you'll have more time with your family. And or if you can get more fish, then you'll have more time with your family. And then eventually it just boils down to like, no, like this is what I like to do. This is what makes me happy. Instead of trying to chase all these other things to supplement,
what
the position that you're in.
I'm gonna get rich and retire and do the same thing that I'm doing now.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think there's a balance, right? And I think it all boils down to balance and simplicity. And I think you can find that in all things, whether you're looking to run a $100 million business or you're looking to build your own or whatever that is. Those things outside of your goals and everything else, if you can find balance and simplicity, then you will, and routines, then you will be extremely happy with your life. But
so I'll try to say this without getting somewhat emotional, but I had a very similar situation with your dog story. Same thing happened to me, and like it's crazy how similar it is. But I experienced that, and it sucked, right? Because I was in a position where I couldn't save my best friend ultimately, right? And I didn't have the means for it, and it's a shitty feeling. And I never
It fuels you to
when that
really
happened.
chase your goals.
Yeah, when that happened, I just never ever wanted to I never wanted to allow myself to experience anything like that, and be even remotely close to experience something like that. It sucked. Yeah. So I can relate very closely to that, dude. It's
We go through a lot of things, and we go through a lot of stress, and we sometimes take it out on people, but that's why I'm a big fan of the gym, dude. I remember this one moment in time where this was like after I finished a Tony Robbins event. It was one of those moments that it will always be in my brain as proof that you can actually control how you feel and how you think and your physical state. And it was during COVID at the time. Everybody was wearing masks, even wearing masks to go run outside, which was to me ridiculous. I'm like, no one's around me.
You weren't running outside in a mask or driving in your car with a
No,
mask?
heck no. Heck no. I'm not that type of person.
Eating, but then COVID wasn't allowed to get you when you were eating.
Yeah, whatever, right? So I'm running outside, no one around me, wearing a mask. I set a goal to just become fit. Whether I decided that this run was made to make me healthier or just to let off some steam, I did it anyways. I was about like 3 miles deep on this track outside of our neighborhood. I had this little system. It's like a trail, but it all ends up in the same thing, the circle. And so where I started is where I ended. And I remembered I was so tired. I told myself this is the last lap that I'm gonna do without walking because due to fatigue. I'm gonna continue to jog the entire time without stopping. And again, I weighed about like 235 pounds at that time. A bigger boy. I'm like 219 right now. You guys ever played sports? You ever had your coach tell you like fourth quarter, or like when you guys do conditioning, like run past the line?
Yeah.
That was that mentality that I pulled in that last bit, closing up to the final lap.
Yeah.
And I remembered it was just a straight road, and I was about to quit, and I was about to walk. And I just remembered thinking, like, just quite literally imagining that moment when I played sports, when the coach told me to like cross the line, give it everything you got. And I was so tired. I couldn't feel my body. I had all this like amino acid. And, like I literally felt like I had ants under my skin. Yeah. That's when I started to picture myself, tunnel vision, this straight sidewalk, right? And I just envision all the people that I care about, whether it's family members, friends, people I look up to. I just see this like, you ever seen like the Rome, the Colosseum in Rome? It's like the stadium seats. I just see them on the side, and they're just like, I'm on this straight road. And I just envision them cheering me on. I envision them telling me like, you can do it. And then it's like a close-up frame of like my close people that I really love, my parents, my mentors at the time, my coaches telling me like, you can do it. It's like almost like this person I look up to is giving me validation to like go. Yeah. And that's when, in that moment in time, when I was tired and I was about to quit and start walking, I sprinted the entire thing and ran past the line. And after I finished, I was like, I didn't know I had the energy to sprint that, but I did, because I was able to tap into that moment in time. And I take that with me to this day. Whenever I come across a point in my business where things are tough and I want to give up, I just picture that, and I fuel that to just keep going.
You have to be your own cheerleader, your own motivator, and you have to pull things from, whatever you've stored inside.
Yeah, the memory bank.
In your memory bank to self-motivate, to give yourself that self-motivation, that self-push, right? Because yes, we know that there's always more inside of us to give, and what each of us can need to tap into is, I think obviously personal or whatever it is, right, through your experiences. But there's something about that, right? When you're about to give up, what are you envisioning? What are you pulling into? What are you tapping into your memory bank with or for to help you run past that line? You have a great story, dude. And I know, we're coming up on an hour now, but thanks for sharing it with us.
It's so fun to watch your stuff outside of ours as well. Like, you can tell, every single day you're putting in more and more work to.
And I just want to say, I really appreciate how you guys run your business as well.
Thank you, dude.
Appreciate it. I've been on the ground with you guys and seeing how you operate and seeing how you guys do business with other people and how you treat people. And I love seeing that. I want to take that and like apply that to my business. Use that to improve my business, because I think it's just like so cool the way you guys just treat people really nice. Everyone's so cool with you, and it doesn't have this like, I'm your boss, do what I say type of vibe. Right. It's very collaborative. It's very healthy. And at the same time, you guys are finding success in that and growing the business in that. So I really like being able to experience that with you guys.
Thank you, B. And you touched on it a little bit earlier, where at some point it's not about the material things, right? It's not about, oh man, I can go do these things, stuff like that. Yes, we're very focused on, obviously our customer service, on the way we treat people, on how we do business with people. But at least for me, obviously we have certain goals and targets that we want to hit, right, as a company. But for me, it's more of also now like, man, I've got a great team. We've got a young team, and I want to make sure that I'm investing in my team to help them grow as much as they possibly can. So, and I think, obviously being genuine, sharing that with our clients too is part of what's making us, or allowing us to have some success.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
But yeah, dude, thank you, man. Appreciate it, B. This was great.
This was awesome.
Yeah, this was a good time. Well, where can the viewers find you?
Just check out my Instagram. You can find pretty much anything once you hit the Instagram, at the Bryan Bea.
Another episode of the JustSayan Podcast. We'll talk to you soon.
Sweet. Love it.
That was awesome, dude.
The JustSayan Podcast.